Thank you all for coming. Appreciate it. Hope you all had a good lunch. Really excited to be here and enjoying the panels and the beautiful view here. It's been excellent. I'm Miles Rutter, Director of Client Development at Ben, also known as Branded Entertainment Network. We are a Bill Gates-owned product placement and brand integration company that uses our own AI technology to help brands identify which content is best to integrate into across the streaming, TV, film, music, and influencer landscape. Very excited to be here for this discussion with such an iconic brand, and I'll let you guys all introduce yourselves.
I'm Somerset. I work on the global marketing team on our lifestyle product.
I'm Kristen Fougere. I also work in global marketing on the lifestyle team, owning our collaboration and energy projects.
I'm Chuck Barr. I'm the global brand director for New Balance.
Thanks. Well, we're seeing the New Balance brand everywhere. It's on fire, and it's certainly no longer the shoe that dads wear to mow the lawn in. Congratulations.
Or maybe it still is. You know,
maybe listen, you still can.
You can do both.
So there's actually some very passionate dads out there that really like them. But it seems that there are three clear aspects to your brand strategy and creating differentiation and momentum, the Made in USA collaborations and investment in brand marketing. Can you talk a bit more about how these came to be?
Dylan, do you want to talk about Made in USA?
Sure. So Made in USA, for us, it's a key brand differentiator. It's something that is rooted in our heritage, something that we've had since the beginning. And for us, it's something that we've decided to invest in most recently in the last couple of years through a creative director. Some of you might know Teddy Santis. He's the owner of Amy Leon Dore in New York. Bringing him in really allowed us to do a couple different things. We really could shine the spotlight on this part of the brand that might have been seen to a slightly older demographic and make it feel younger, new, relevant, and honestly, we've seen exceptional success thus far, just establishing this new tone of voice for the brand and just a clear tone of voice. We've been able to grow our business, but we've also eliminated SKU count dramatically. So it's been really interesting because it's an updated version of heritage for us, and it's something that we want to contend but invest in thoughtfully and strategically.
Awesome. And yeah, you mentioned the Teddy Santis project. How did that partnership come to be?
So again, shared values of just heritage, craft, quality. He really has meticulous design sense, and everything he does with his brand is extremely thoughtful. He doesn't do anything just to do it. He does it because it really has a place in his heart. It has a place in what he stands for and the ethos of his company. So in working with him on collaboration partners, Kristen's worked on a lot of them on other models, we basically identified that he would be an amazing partner to bring in to really speak to that younger consumer, but also have that ethos of what we stand for and our heritage. We talk about this a lot as a team, but every partner we work with, every project we do is a reflection of our brand values. So bringing in Teddy Santis was a shared reflection of where we want to invest and just like what's important to us. So that quality, that craftsmanship, and domestic manufacturing.
Yeah, no, it's certainly a great and really authentic alignment. I think it's the proof is certainly out there. This question is for Kristen. Collaborations specifically with influencers are a big part of your strategy. We've seen your partnerships with Joe Freshgoods, Action Bronson, and more. How did those come to be, and how do you select them, and why?
That's always the first question. How do we select them? Yeah, we've gotten pretty lucky with a lot of our partners that we've worked hard to select. I think trust is huge. So knowing, Dylan talked a lot about sort of the ethos of our brand to make sure that those that we're working with really speak to the values of the brand. And so when we start looking for partners, the key factor is, are we going to be able to lean on them to be able to open us up to their community, welcome us to their community of folks, and kind of align ourselves in a bigger global brand with, smaller either subcultures and communities that really, they really reflect the values of the brand at kind of the heart of everything that they do. So we've spent a lot of time kind of identifying those partners, and then, we don't try to just do a one-off project with them. So they're usually, for the most part, 2 to 3 years long that we're really investing in that relationship with them, which is how we get the most impactful, connected content in working with those partners. So, you mentioned Joe Fresh Goods. I'm actually fresh off a trip from Japan where we actually brought Joe Fresh Goods to our sort of Tokyo design studio and regional office in Japan, where there is, again, Dylan spoke about this, but the heritage of our brand is actually incredibly strong in Japan. So we kind of took the learnings of that and some of the data of the younger consumers that even Joe Fresh Goods was bringing into the brand in Japan, and we actually brought him to the Tea House, which is sort of our kind of curated concept retail space in Tokyo. And we activated a project with him that actually pulled in, when we talk about the intersection of sport, culture, fashion, we pulled in some of our brand ambassadors into that campaign. We were able to make it sort of this roster of kind of assembling this New Balance team of partners and ambassadors that actually care about each other and have relationships with each other. So Joe Fresh Goods is good friends with Kawhi, one of our biggest, NBA athletes, and getting to be able to feature him in content. Like earlier this year, we did an amazing content series on Conversations Amongst Us, kind of leaning into amplifying Black voices, Black content, creators, and Joe Fresh Goods really allowed us to open us up to this new audience and lean into authentic relationships that he actually has himself on behalf of the brand. So yeah, I would say we're kind of one big family.
Well, that sounds like an awesome trip. You should raffle off the opportunity to do that and go to Japan with Joe Fresh Goods. I'd love that. Great. Well, actually, that brings me to my next question, which is, the streetwear hype beast world is so big right now. It's so valuable. It's the precipice of culture. Every brand wants to be part of it, and it's pretty hard to earn credibility in that world. What was the approach you took to help make New Balance become so hot and so accepted into that world?
So our collaboration strategy is relatively new. I think we have a long history of doing collaborations with certain brands that are tried and tested, like Kith, for example, but it wasn't until a few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, that we were able to actually assemble a formal team to really execute the collaborations. The product team, shout out to Joe Grondin and Brian Lynn, they're amazing. They did a phenomenal job early on kind of identifying who those first partners would kind of be to kind of kickstart our roster of ambassadors and partners. But really, it's because we've invested so much time and energy into our partners. So they feel like they get, a curated, pretty intimate relationship. We're still a pretty small team, to be honest. So we're, it's a little hectic at times, but we take a lot of care into developing those relationships with our partners and making sure that the content is very relevant to their community. So I think that's helped a lot over the years. It's authenticated us, I think, in that space. And it's thanks to a lot of that early on work that, Joe and Brian did for sure. And kind of starting with Teddy Santas, like Dylan mentioned. So we had a great long relationship with him and still do, that all kind of led up to the decision of him being the perfect person for that creative directorship.
But I think it's also too, the partners who you guys choose to work with are largely because these are people who wear the brand. They've been wearing the brand for years before. They have a genuine connection to the brand. There's so much BS out there right now. And hype culture, it's amazing, but also New Balance has never stood for hype culture at all. we want to partner with people who authentically care about our brand. They already wear our brand and they already have a relationship with our brand. A lot of times we do smaller one-off projects with them before we even have a bigger contract with them. So I think it's just a lot of consumers these days they're seeing through the brands that are just like, oh, we're partnering with the biggest name celebrity out there for one project, one and done. And I think part of the reason why New Balance has been so successful is because it's not all about the hype. It's about authenticity for the brand.
Yeah, well, it's certainly working. My very young and very cool account coordinator found out I was interviewing you guys, and she slacked me today asking if I could get her a pair of 550s because she says they sell out within seconds every time she tries to buy them online. So you're doing something right.
That's actually, I'm just going to take a second on that one because it's a good example. That product was actually that was an instance where, because of our trusted partnership with ALD, with Teddy Santes, we looked far back into the archives, and he was really obsessed with that shoe. And we actually together brought that out of the archives, relaunched it, and it has obviously become like a really great success. But you know, it's thanks to that authentic partnership. It's what Dylan just mentioned too. You know, he cares about the brand, knows the brand. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. When we spoke yesterday, you mentioned about how you use regional influencers versus global influencers and like that being important to your strategy for brand ambassadorship. Can you kind of explain how you differentiate between the two and what the goals are?
Sure. Do you want to take this one, Chuck, or you good? Okay. So we do have kind of a regional entertainment and marketing teams, but we also have like our global teams as well. I think when we have, that's also relatively new for us as well, an entertainment team. So we're still kind of figuring out exactly what makes sense for this bigger global ambassador versus smaller kind of locally relevant ambassadors. But it is something that on the collaboration side, when we work with our partners to figure out how are we going to bring this project to life, what's the inspiration behind the design, like what was, you know, what pulls this all together, we do have a pretty deep roster of regional athletes and ambassadors that are kind of managed by our regions all over the world as well. So yes, they may be a regional ambassador, but if we have enough evidence that if we're able to incorporate them in a little bit of a larger way, in a global way, there's actually a really big appetite for that sort of locally relevant, but also globally relevant kind of shared ambassador kind of content. So, yeah.
Cool, awesome. All right, Chuck, this one's for you. With the athletes and ambassadors like Jack Harlow and Kawhi Leonard are featured side by side in the new your global We Got Now campaign, which I'm sure we've all seen. You know, at Ben, we look at a wide range of data when we're deciding how to pick, you know, brand ambassadors for different clients. How did the partnership with kind of Jack Harlow and Kawhi come together?
Kawhi, come on, Kawhi, you got this.
Sorry. I'm a Celtics fan.
I know, I was gonna say, come
That's
on,
fair.
homie.
That's fair. I think the common thread of everything that we've been talking about is marketing being a reflection of our values. So with Kawhi specifically, it was an instance where he was with another brand that really wasn't interested in servicing his needs because he didn't have any social media. He didn't want to be in campaigns. He didn't feel like that was authentic to who he was. So they didn't share his values. So when he came to us, we saw an opportunity in the fact that he didn't have a social media presence, that he wasn't interested in being anything other than a basketball player and a family man. So that was a reflection of our values, you know, sort of show, don't tell, be humble, be who you are, you know, that fearless independence that's a common thread throughout our brand. With Jack, it's truly an authentic connection. Dylan maybe remembers, and some of you in the room who are from Boston may remember Great Scott, which was a former club in Allston, Brighton area. He came and he played to, 60, 70 people. He came with 12 of his friends, the same 12 people who, you know, we saw with him backstage a couple of weeks ago when he came through Boston. and he wore New Balance, and he always wore New Balance because he felt like it was different. He felt like it made him unique to other people. When Dylan and I were getting ready for the global brand campaign, and we met with him in March in his studio in Atlanta, we're standing in the parking lot after our meeting. He's a lovely, humble guy, who's sitting on top of the world right now. His producer is one of the biggest hip-hop producers in the world. He stood next to us, and he was like, look at us, we're all wearing New Balances. He was like, when Jack came to us first, I said, yo, your style is corny. You got to change your style, because he wears New Balance. But Jack was like, no, that's me. That's who I am. He's 17 years old at the time. So, when we talk about marketing being a reflection of our values, when we talk about the authentic connections that we have with our partners and collaborators, that goes through every athlete and ambassador that we sign as part of our brand.
And I know we just came off the New York City Marathon this past weekend. I know you guys were very busy with that. What does that mean to the brand, and what are the other most important areas of sports that you focus on?
Running's the soul of our brand. For those of you who know the brand from this area in Boston, when New Balance has been around for over 100 years, but under its current ownership for the last 40 plus years, that's how we entered into the industry, was through running. The New York City Marathon is, for anybody who's ever been there, is just an incredibly, beautiful event. If you run or you don't run, it's a celebration of sport, but it's also 50,000 people from all over the world. So it aligns with our values in running, but also, the global nature of our brand as well. So we're in the midst of, we're halfway through a 10-year partnership, I believe, with the marathon right now. It was a warm day this weekend, and it was incredible to have New York be at full tilt, which I'm sure, as a New Yorker, you experienced.
The traffic, sure, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, and it's just it's a critical part. The way that our business and our portfolio looks globally is, we have our lifestyle business, our running business, and then our sport business, which is cleated sports, tennis, et cetera. So, it's a huge part of how we activate running globally. And the New York Marathon isn't just relevant in North America, it's relevant to runners around the world.
And just one more question around the Jack Harlow partnership. I'm a huge fan. I love that song where he shouts out New Balance. Was that part of the partnership in terms of a lyric integration? Did that happen organically? How did that come to be?
990s over Jordans? Is that what he says?
No, I got a check from a shoe company. Now I do anything New Balance say.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Ooh, that's a bad one. I don't know. Let's focus on the other one.
I like it. It's a good line.
The funny part about that is he said that before there was
he
a
had
check.
a check.
So
Cocky.
Jack has an incredible vision for himself, so he was manifesting that
He was
partnership,
manifesting.
which is one of the things I appreciate about him. No, that was just organic. We didn't know. I found out from my 17-year-old daughter, so that's how I got the news on that, So, it's what Kristen said about the 550. Teddy went into our archives and found a shoe that we had forgotten, and, together we were able to lovingly bring it back. This was not something where we said, hey, this is the shoe, and this is what you're going to go out and sell. It was, what do you want to do? What do you see? So, again, we've been very lucky, but we spend a lot of time and a lot of care, and it's really the power of a small team to go along with that, where we're able to bring these things to life in the marketplace. So, yeah, no partnership there with Jack. He was ready for the check, I think, is how that went down.
I was going to say, if you had in the contract, a line item in the contract, you have to write about New Balance in X amount of songs. It'd be kind of bizarre, don't you think?
I mean, we've done it. We've definitely done it.
Well, no, and I mean, the things that are in our contracts with athletes specifically are, what is your charitable donation going to be? Can we help you build a foundation? Those are the things that, again, make even our sports marketing contracts wildly different than anyone else in our category. If those things aren't established, if they just want to check, that's great. They can go get it somewhere else. But for us, again, if we don't have those shared values, then we can't have a partnership.
And he's in the reboot of White Men Can't Jump. Are we going to see any product placements for New Balance in that?
Absolutely, Miles.
Like,
Absolutely.
Love it.
And that was when he was under contract as a New Balance ambassador.
Okay, this one's actually scheduled.
Yes. Yeah. We're looking forward to that, though.
Cool. Awesome. And I guess my next question is, what everybody, I feel like authenticity, cultural relevancy, these are all things that we hear every marketer talk about, especially now. What advice would you have for brands that are looking to sort of either age down or increase their cultural relevancy?
I think we all might have a different take, but I think for me, and looking at the list of people and some of the badges who are in here, is to be yourself. It's the silliest thing to say, but in the face of growing complexity in all of our markets, it really is a grounding principle, and I think for us, it's easy to sit up here and say in the midst of all this success, but all the success we're experiencing right now has been, part of a multi-year plan. So, and that there's more things we said no to than we've said yes to because it wasn't who we were. So, I think that, again, in your respective industries, you're probably seeing it, the people who are doing the best are the people who are connecting in the most, relevant and, I would say genuine ways. I'm trying not to say authentic anymore. Yeah. I'm trying, genuine.
Doesn't sound authentic.
Yeah, well, I'm trying, and, think.
Dylan, do you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I think like exactly what Chuck was saying. Consumers can see through any sort of play that it's like you're giving someone a check for it. Consumers are savvy these days. Like, we know that. You've got to be thoughtful about what content you're putting out, how you're approaching your content, and what channels you're putting it out through. And when you do that in the right formula and it's authentic to your brand values, like that's where you win. That's where you get younger.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think that's, the right approach. So what's next? Is there anything we should be on the lookout coming up aside from White Men Can't Jump that is going to be exciting coming up for New Balance?
We have a pretty stacked fall, I think. There's still a lot of shipping delays, logistical delays, which is, I think, a lot of us can sympathize with. So that's been challenging to kind of plan out. But we've got a lot coming up this fall. I think we've got a really great launch with Moalola. She's Nigerian, Lagos born, kind of out of London as well, designer. She was creative director of Easy Gap. And so we've got a great shoe coming out with her that's sort of a long time coming. We debuted it at Paris Fashion Week earlier this year, and have seen a lot of really positive interest in it. So I'm really excited to promote more women in sort of the sneaker hype space, if you will, kind of highlight some female designers as well. So just happy to get a chance to do some of that.
Awesome.
The World Cup is coming up.
Yes.
And, we've got a lot of players who are going to be featured in that, specifically for the England national team. So
Revolutionary War game. I can't wait.
Day after Thanksgiving. But, but when you think about it, it'll be the most watched soccer, as we say here, game probably in our country's history. And then in 2026, there's a World Cup here in the United States, partially at Gillette Stadium. So it's exciting to see what the growth, of, global soccer is. And we're lucky to be invested with some great players in that way.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I can't wait for that. That's very cool. Great. Well, thank you guys so much. I think we have time for questions, so I'll open it up to anybody that has questions out there for this lovely team.
Thanks, Miles.
You're welcome. Questions? Anybody?
Hi guys, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. You talked about the popularity of the business in Japan, and I'm familiar with the popularity of the business in UK. What are some newer emerging markets that you are looking to capitalize on in the future?
I can talk. Can you guys hear me? Oh, there we go. The business in Latin America is super interesting. It's very much skate forward. We have a part of New Balance called New Balance Numeric. They work and operate and design product out of Long Beach, California. It's probably one of the most authentic and core skate businesses in the world, and it's it's a part of New Balance that we really let operate on its own, and it's absolutely massive in Latin America. It's a wildly unstable part of the world. But skate continues to be that thing for us that's really authentic and connects with the consumer there. So that's really exciting. And China is obviously, and our associates and our coworkers there it's a tough environment, but through that we're seeing just an incredible youth movement and excitement around, not only specific products of ours, but some of the partners that we are talking to there. So it's, we're experiencing really great growth literally in every country that we operate in. So it's an exciting opportunity.
Also, Korea, there's amazing content, amazing designers, film coming out of Korea right now. So, historically as well. So I think we've got a few collaboration partners. One, This Is Never That we've worked with for a few years. I'm actually wearing the shoe right now. Did not plan that. And we've got a few more that are gonna come out next year, kind of coming out of Korea. So I think that's another space that creatively we're really excited about.
Another question over here. Great job, guys. That was really impressive. Question, there's so many exciting things you're all doing across your various teams. Any thoughts on like organizing principles for all this content? Like, it sounds like you've got so much content and so much happening. How do you know what to do with all of it? How do you prioritize? I know that's something that came up earlier. It's just like, we all have our hands on great content, but how do we get the eyeballs on it? And so just curious if you've had any learnings or successes in that vein.
As much as we've invested in our brand and being brand led, we've invested in our go-to-market process. So we've spent the last probably almost 3 years re-engineering it from sell-in to sell-through. What you learn along the way is that you create far too much content. So I'm sure you maybe that's part of your experience as well, or experiences that the rest of us are having. We're lucky to have a great insights function that we've built out that's helping us measure in real time. But I think so much of it is there's just an over-creation that's built on probably an aging digital construct of always on, which I'm sure we've all heard before. And it's just the data generally doesn't support it, at least in our experience. So, we've really just invested in our go-to-market process, which is true shared cross-functional partnership to go with our sort of, our brand-led vision.
Any other questions? I actually have a question for each of you. I mean, I think it seems you are all so attuned to culture. What are you consuming on a daily basis that helps you stay so relevant? Each of you on perhaps a more personal level.
I watch a lot of Netflix.
That's a great answer. So I have a younger sister who actually works at the company. Nepotism, I guess, at its finest. But she is 8 years younger than me, and I'm gonna be honest, I pick her brain almost every single day. And we trade, who are you following on Instagram? What are you reading on Twitter? Although Twitter right now, maybe we're not on Twitter right now. I'm just saying. But I think it's relying on your peers and also knowing like who are the accounts that are influencing the bigger accounts. Like what I always want to know is like who is the person behind the bigger person. And honestly, I lean on my younger sister a lot for that. So not everyone in here has a younger sister that they can lean on, but I think like just tuning in to what that Gen Z consumer is saying, who they're following, learning those trends and following those trends, staying up on the latest within digital. Like for me, that's obviously more of a personal answer, but like that's how I tend to stay as relevant as possible.
Yeah, I do a lot of analogs. So when I travel, I just go to stores. I talk to the people who work in the stores. I try to eavesdrop on conversations. I think it's, we work in a business where, we obviously have a defined universe and a set of accounts. And I think that we're probably not valuing the physical experience as much, especially as people are trying, I think, for the most part, trying to rush back to it. So I talk to a lot of people and ask a lot of questions, so I'm turning into like that weird old guy. But apparently you too. But yeah, no. But I think the value in that is, we can all read the same reports. We can, all have, the same set of references. What you see is you see that come through marketing plans more often than not. You see that come through your agency partners more often than not. The difference is like, are you able to synthesize some available truths and then pass that through the lens of what you know to be true of your brand? So for us, that's, we have a clear set of values, so we can push that through, and then kind of get to the answer on our own. A lot of times I say, at least to the teams that I work with, like I'm not sure we're on the right page, but if we're on the same page, then we can actually go to market in a successful way. But yeah, I talk to a lot of people.
TikTok for sure. Definitely TikTok. We also have my kind of core team across merch, product, marketing. We stay super close. So we've got group IG chats, Teams chats, text chats. I mean, it's actually kind of annoying, but we're constantly sending each other stuff, competitor stuff, inspiration, new like emerging footwear innovation and designs, even just cool brands that we're into. So I'd say definitely that like crowdsourcing kind of inspiration. And then honestly, just really getting back out into market and traveling. There was truly nothing more valuable to me than going to Japan and seeing how strong the brand is there and how connected and interested consumers are in the brand, and speaking to our regional teams first and foremost about what their experience is and feeling connected to our regional teams on bi-weekly, monthly calls, and sort of picking their brain on stuff too. I also have a younger sister, so obviously that as well.